bit more fun with some Z80 boards. I hope everyone's doing well. Not that there's any viewers at the moment, but if there were, I'd hope they were doing well. Let's just move some windows around a little bit so I can make the chat a little bit bigger. That's better. Okay, so a few more bits have arrived for the Z80 board, or boards. So we've got a couple of little tactile switches. They turned up, so I've got to solder those in there, just sitting there at the moment. The IDE connector, that bag full of those arrived, so I've got to solder that one in, and the diode that goes in there, I've got to solder that in. There's a bag of those here somewhere. So, yeah, bag of diodes. So I think from memory they were about $1 each, so why wouldn't you buy a bag of 100? In fact, I think 100 was the minimum order. I don't think I could have bought less if I wanted to. For the disc controller board, I don't think there's anything new on that front. What else arrived? There's some things. Oh, that's the rest of the switches. I ordered, I think, 5 of them. I only needed 2. That's the rest of the IDC header connector, or whatever you want to call them, for the boards. Again, I ordered 10. I only needed 1, but they're cheap enough that it's worth ordering some extras just to have in stock. So I did. What else? The pins that I forgot to order for my 6502 power connector, they turned up today. Just to give you an idea, that's these connectors here. Oh, good. Yeah, that worked well. First thing tonight is to repair the tub. Good job. Sorry about that. Yeah, so these connectors, I ordered them. Nice power connectors. They go in on into here on the back plane. Nice connectors, but I forgot they didn't come with the pins. The PCB mount socket comes with the pins, and the plug side doesn't. So those are the pins that go in there. And I did rat up a power supply earlier. What did I do with that? What did I do with that? I brought it in. Well, that's clever. What did I do with it? What did I do with it? Well, it's here somewhere. I found a nice little power supply. Oh, there it is. So it's a nice little power supply that should work for that project. Near on 10 amps at 5 volts, 1.2 amps at 12 volts. And that's for the 6502 project, and that only needs 12 volts and 5 volts anyway. I didn't bother with negative voltages for that. So yeah, this power connector in time will get cut off and reworked, possibly extended to go into that connector, which will then go into the board. So yeah, that's going to be my power supply. I don't know what that was salvaged out of. I expect it was an old sort of generic brand rack mount server, if I had to guess. But I rarely throw things like that out because you never know when they're going to be handy. Case in point. So anyway, that's the pins for my power connectors. So they turned up, as I say, today. I'm still waiting on my IC sockets for these boards, which you can't see. But yeah, for these 2 boards, I'm waiting on the IC sockets. So not a huge amount. I don't want to start putting the ICs in just yet, because first thing I'm going to want to do is just check that the power rails aren't shorted and there's no other obvious shorts on the board when it's ready to go. And if I put the ICs in, it just makes that more difficult. And then I'll build the board up in a sort of a minimal configuration, put the minimum complement of chips on it to get it to do something, and then as I sort of prove it works at each stage, we'll build on that and add more to it. And probably a similar approach with this controller board. The back's not terribly neat at the moment. The flux residue and what have you needs cleaning off, but I will do that when I've finished all the soldering on the board. I'll put those over there. What I did need to do, let's put this keyboard somewhere. Check. What I did need to do on this board, and hopefully my overhead light's going to behave and not strobe too much tonight. These pins were way longer. Just as an example, I don't know how well that's going to show up, but that's how much I cut off each one. So it's a bit hard to see, but they were sticking up nearly. Yeah, it's going to be hard to see on the camera, but can I try one up here? So they were sticking up a fair way, and that was making it, well, would have made it impossible to solder the middle row. So the light's going to burn it out, but all the silver pins in here are all, silver gold pins, sorry, are the offcuts. And you might be wondering how I did that, and it was actually remarkably easy. I did it with the Dremel. So, apologies for the shadows here, it's sort of set up more for doing the soldering over here in a minute. So basically, because I've got this sort of drill pressy style setup for the Dremel, I put the board down, basically adjusted it, and the shadows are a killer, but adjusted it so that the cutting disc was just above, or the screw head on the cutting disc was just above the board, and gave me enough pin length to solder. And then with the Dremel running and it held down, I literally just slid the board backwards and forwards, sliced the pins off, and it worked remarkably well. So obviously I didn't do it on this board because, well, the pins are still long on this one, but I did it on that board. I did that yesterday lunchtime, and yeah, the results were quite reasonable. So tonight's order of business, I thought we might solder the rest of this stuff up. So find my flux pen. It's going to be a balancing act between not glaring all over the screen and me still being able to see. So just got a healthy, oops. Flux pen's stuck. So we'll just get a healthy dose of flux on there. Just helps the solder flow so much more cleanly. Now I've got to try and focus on this without burning, without being so bright that it upsets the camera. It's a bit awkward when you're trying to film it. Yeah, very awkward in fact. Can't see what I'm doing. As you can appreciate, there's I really need to get a fume extractor too. I must make one before someone tells me that, oh, you need a fume extractor. Yes, I do. Wish I could see what I was doing. Right, well that's the middle row is the most tedious. On my 6502 board I don't actually have to solder the middle row because I'm not using it. I only went with the 96 pin connector on that because I had it. But this board actually does use the middle row. So I do need to solder it. And that one looks a little bit... How you doing? So you see how tedious this is going to be. I was watching a stream earlier. I don't know what the guy was making. Some sort of audio device. And of course everything on his board was surface mount. And it apparently took him 5 hours. 5 hours to get the solder paste down and get all the components placed. But then the actual soldering was like 3 minutes because he put it in a reflow oven. But at this point in time I don't have a reflow oven. It's probably something I should investigate and put on the to make list, I guess, because I do have some stuff coming up that's surface mount. And I was planning on just soldering that stuff by hand because there's not much. UPS just doing something in the background. There's not much surface mount in that particular project, so I probably can just do it by hand, but I will be doing more and more surface mount in the future, so it's terrible trying to... I think I've reached that. Get out. Hang on. Just wick a bit of solder up out of there. If I can. It's just so hard trying to see. I'm trying to keep the magnifying glass positioned so that the camera doesn't get completely burnt out of existence. In doing so, it's a bit less than ideal for me to see. So now getting glare on the... I really need something better than this. I'm curious actually what a USB microscope would look like for this, but of course right at the moment I don't have one, so it's kind of moot. So I've done a bit over 100 pins. There's well over 300 to go. I think from memory there was 480 connector pins on this board. When you can see properly, which I can't at the moment, but when you can see properly, you get on quite a roll. You just pop from pin to pin and they're relatively quick to do. Can't start the other end, work back because I can't see it. Move the magnifier to be able to see it. Magnify so I can see. Look for it to stop flapping around in the breeze. Sad thing is, anyone watching this probably getting a clearer view of what I'm doing than I am. Come on, take. Let's see that starting at this end. Actually, I didn't put any flux on this one either. Completely forgot. You don't actually, I guess, need it, but it just makes the, I find anyway, it makes the solder flow a lot better. Poor old eyes are struggling to focus on this through the magnifier. Right, there's another one done. So, oh, actually, while we're at it, I might solder that switch on. course the switch is right under the overlay on the screen, you can't see what I'm doing, but that's right, there's not much to it. The switch was actually salvaged from a different board, so it's kind of odd. That's the C&K switch is I'm pretty sure the one that's intended to go there, but the board doesn't, not quite straight, the board doesn't properly accommodate it, because normally the board would come out a little bit further and be a couple of pins here that go into the board and solder on, but this one didn't accommodate that. So, next cab off the rank is, if I can just turn the camera around a bit, how useful this is going to be, but we'll see. So I've got to put some more components in here, some bypass caps and things like that, which I'm pretty darn sure are in this tub. There they are, there's the bypass caps. There's a decent number of them go on this board. So if I had the right board in my hand, I always try and orient them the same way. So in this case I'm going to put the component value label facing me. Doesn't matter, these capacitors aren't polarized, so they can go in anyway, but it's just neater if you can see the label. It's just neater to put them all the same way. Same with resistors, they're not polarized, but it's just neater to put them with the tolerance band the same way on the board. Just looks like it was meant to be, looks a bit more professional rather than looking random. There she goes. So I've got to put a bunch of these in my backplane board as well for the 6502. Couldn't put them in before, I didn't have them. And at this rate I'm not going to have any of them going to run out before long. I ordered 100. I should have ordered like 500, because again they're dirt cheap, so I should have just gone for the bigger quantity, since there's such a common part on these sort of projects. I think this board alone's got 17 of them, if I remember correctly. Oops. These components, being as small as they are and only 2 legs, they're pretty easy to straighten up too. Once you solder them in, if they're not sitting up dead straight and you want to push them straight, you can. It's a little harder when you've got a bunch of pins, but with just 2 pins it's pretty straightforward. I've got to look up on the circuit diagram what these links in the middle here are as well. Not sure whether I need those or not. But I just so happen to have the web page for the project on the other screen, so I can pull that up if I need to. Come on. I wish I had the eyesight that I did when I was, well, a lot younger. When I was younger I could have read the component labels on these components without glasses, without a magnifying glass. Now I need both. fact, I almost need a magnifying glass just to see what side the label's on. Right, that's all of those ones. What's next? We've got a couple of jumpers, a diode. Well, I think at this point we'd be best served to solder those caps in. We'll do that. I might make a bit of flux on one, all we do. Just except my flux pen is, there's plenty in it. It's just a little balked. Okay. Hopefully I can get this down without, you can almost see what I'm doing. Can't see that one. Not liking that a whole lot, to be honest. That's better. That one's better. I'm not a huge fan of this at all. Why is it being so difficult? Not a fan, but anyway. Come on, take. It's funny that the top one goes in really well. I don't know if it's just the heat being wicked away, but I mean it's got thermal relief on the pads, so you wouldn't think so. I think it did the business, I think. Lindströms here Lindström cutters aren't as good as they used to be. I actually found this pair. My last job I had a nice pair of Lindströms, brand spanking new ones, but of course when I left that job they wanted them back, not unreasonably enough, considering they're about $100 a pair. But these ones I found on the ground at a site I was working at, and I asked the other guy that was working there, mate, are these yours? And he's like, nah. I'm like, well, they're mine now. They were a little bit rusty and they still almost are, but for the most part they do the job. Let's do that one even. What the hell? Not convinced about those. There's a bob solder there, but it's just the way the light's on it. They just didn't look great. Anyway. Right, so that's got the bypass caps in there. Yeah, so the bypass caps are now in, not too offensively crooked. So what do we need now? We need a 470 ohm resistor. Let me see, 470. Here's some I prepared earlier. I always just like to check these with a multimeter. I'm usually fairly confident in my reading of the colour code and fairly confident that they're in the right bin. But it doesn't hurt to, yeah, 470. Doesn't hurt to give them a quick check, just to be sure. Because the time it takes to give it a quick check with a meter is much less than the time it takes to desolder it when you realise you put the wrong part in. Right, so we'll put the tolerance bands downwards towards where I would be. Probably just solder that on the bench. Wish my eyesight was better. Come on. Why are you not taking? I shouldn't have been lazy, I should have put some flux on it. Probably would have drawn it through the hole a little bit better. Okay. So what's next? We've got an LED to go in. I wonder what LED this is on the back plane. It's probably a power LED, if I had to guess. Do I have the schematics loaded? Do I have the schematics? No. But I can do. I guess I do. So, where are we looking? It's definitely a power LED. Down in the corner there. So, what? I reckon green. I reckon we put a green one in. Green's good. Now I sort of figure that red bad, green good. So we have an LED. Now the $64 question is, which way does that go on the board? Because it's not marked. And I reckon it's So my gut says it's going to go in that there direction. Oh, what does it? No, end goes up. I thought I found the end that was going to the ground plane, but where are we? I can't see for looking. But, whoops, a little on the excessively large side there. Where are we? It must be, there it is. Right, so the resistor. Yeah, right, okay. No, that is right. It'll be interesting because the legs of that LED are a little tarnished by the look of it, so it'll be interesting to see how well that solders. I might just put it up in here. And we'll spin the camera around. This flux pen is annoying me. Oh, that's even more annoying. There's heaps of it in there. It's just not coming out very well. Well, it seems to have taken. I suppose if we get particularly bored, we could try it, couldn't we? We could indeed try it. I mean, it's only a lead, but hey, why not? Just make sure we don't have any shorts in the board. Not that we've soldered everything up yet. So pin 4. So there's no shorts. So what we could do, if I can get my cables out again, I have my rat's nest of cables. Got to come up with a better way of dealing with all these cables, probes, and God knows what. It's going to be the best way of doing this. Actually, I can probably do something. I do have, oh, that's not going to work. What have I got here? Not a lot. Things have seen better days, but anyway, turn the power on. Where's my and we'll dial up 9 volts. No, we don't want 9 volts. No, we don't want, well, I mean 4 will do. But 5 volts. Turn it on. Right. So I should be able to. Which one is that one? Yep, and the LED lights up, you probably hardly see it. But you can't really see it. But it does light up. And that's okay, because you probably don't want it burning your eyeballs out anyway. I know I don't. So, wow, we've got a switch that makes an LED work. I need the Molex connector for there, I don't have it yet. It's just another one of those things I forgot to order. I thought I would have had one, but apparently I don't. So, back to the old fox of the fire. Where are we? And the keyboard's over here, that's not very helpful. There's a couple of jumpers there. Just put these caps away, I think. Don't need them out anymore. So, jumpers. I had some of those. I mean, I've got a whole new strip of them here, but rather than break into that, I do have. What do I do with the pinheads? Well, I did have. Oh, there they are. Put them away yet. So, a couple there, a couple there. Now the trick here, and it's not exactly a new trick by any stretch, is that I'm going to tape them in place. One there. So the best way of doing this, probably just straight down. And the other one goes there. A little bit more tape. Just holds them in place while I turn the board upside down as well. Stops them dropping out on the desk. And, yeah, I'm far from the first person to come up with this idea. Right, so make a little bit of flux there, good. Now we'll get the red hot poker and we'll give it a poke. And we'll just do one on each. We can take the tape off, see if they're straight but not pushed all the way in. Thought I'd taken care of that, but apparently not. That one's in. And I'm pushing on the pin, obviously, that I'm not soldering, because otherwise my fingers will get somewhat burnt. I'll just whack that back in and touch up the other one first. Come on. Just touch those up. Right, so what's next? Got to all those. I need the power connector. I haven't got. Thought I had one. I thought I would have had a board kicking around that would have had one of those on. I could have salvaged, but I don't. So I'm going to have to order one of them. Assuming I want to put a Molex connector on, of course, I could. I could just run wires out from there, but that just seems a little bit kludgy and horrible. So I don't think I'll be doing that. All the other components are on. I've got some jumpers here though, so let's see if the website of Destruction tells us what those are supposed to be. And they're not fitted on this. This finished board doesn't seem to have them. Does the schematic shed any light on what those jumpers are? I mean, I guess in theory it should. P7, P9. So they're on the P7 to P12. So this seems to be a way of connecting 7 to 12 is for connecting the IEI1. So this would appear to be for daisy chaining something, because you've got an IEO, O is presumably output, going to IEI, which is presumably input. I wonder if that's like an interrupt enable. Does it? Yeah, and they're not used up here. So it's, yeah, they're going to be for daisy chaining something, but I'm not sure what. It's the only way those pins make it through the system. Yeah, I might have to do some reading on this to work out. What's this? This is just the drawing. I don't need that. Oh, that's the processor card. We'll get to that in a minute. But it doesn't. Is there anything here that's going to give me a hint about what that's about? Maybe one of the smaller backplanes. Yeah, so this has them as well. They're labelled differently, but it's the same pins. Oh, here we go. You should be using the interrupted DMA chains. You'll need to fit 4 wire jumpers connecting the, yeah, right. So one must be for the interrupts and one must be for the DMA. That's okay. I'm not sure whether I need those yet, but that's okay. There's no harm fitting them later. So other than soldering up the rest of those pins, which I guess I may as well do, this so it works for all of us. Okie dokie. Let's see how we go. Start down this end. Come on. Tedious this bit, but anyway, you can get there on the big jobs. Sorry about the white noise coming from behind me. I've got a Dell server running there that hosts a bunch of virtual machines for things around the house and for work things. And it's not really an option to shut it down. There's actually two of them there. One of them is shut down, but I only turn that on when I need particular work things, but the other one runs a lot of household stuff, so it makes a bit of noise around the clock, chews power around the clock. I may actually at some point move it into the comms cupboard under the stairs, but I think I'm out of switch ports under there at the moment. I've got two 24-port switches and they're chockers, so I have to deal with that problem first. And I do have another switch waiting for me, but it's in Queensland, so, and as from my Twitch handle you can tell I'm not in Queensland. The company I work for is based in Queensland, and we've got some network hardware that we pulled out that will otherwise meet its maker. And usually when we have network hardware that's pulled out that's going to meet its maker, it gets offered to the staff to see if they want it for home or anything like that. Some of it's just really big stuff that's just no good for home. You know, the power bill would break you, not to mention the noise. But we had a couple of big switching routers that they're about half a rack high, and I would love one for home, but only so I could lay it on its only so I could lay it on its back and use it as a coffee table. Serve no other useful purpose. Couldn't afford to turn it on. But they may have already met their maker, those ones. They were pulled out a couple of months ago. But the ones that are up there with my name on are 48-port PoE switches. I've just got to either go to Brisbane, which with COVID at the moment is with COVID is not going to happen. Or I have to find a business reason to be shipping some stuff down here, and then I can throw it in the box at the same time, because understandably the company won't just send it to me for, you know, on their dime, nor would I expect them to. Only 200 or so more of these to go. And I'm not even fully populating this backplane. It's an 8-slot backplane. I'm only populating 5 slots. So at some point in the future I may have 3 more of these to put in. I mean, if I ever built enough expansion cards, that is, to warrant it. That's why I stopped at 5. I could have bought more of the connectors and fully populated it, but 8 slots is a lot. And I would have actually made a 5-slot backplane and got like a 5-slot board if they'd had one, but I think from memory, yeah, they have pre-packaged backplane with the Gerbers and what have you in 3, 4, 8 and 12, and 3 was a bit small for what I might want to do. 4 was just. 12 was just way too big. I mean, if I had another Eurocard chassis, I might have gone to 12. And 8's a bit big, but I figured I didn't have to populate it all, so that's what I'm doing. Only populating a bit of it. I wish my flux pen was working properly. Because I've done evil things to it like this, pushing it down on these connectors and burn it all up. I guess a little bit of flux better than none. I'm guessing a lot of people who might watch this sort of content are probably in bed at the moment, given the time. It's likely, I mean, it's like after midnight in the US, I reckon. But I can't do this earlier in the day because day job and all. Day job, I don't do stuff like this. Day job, I'm a network engineer, so I build the network that carries this Twitch stream, not for Twitch, but for the company I work for. And of course I have an internet connection from the company I work for, and that's what carries my stream to the good people at Twitch to distribute to the good people who watch. So yeah, that's my day job. So far this is going quite well, considering that these are, I think, Y-wrap connectors and they're marginally bigger than the holes were drilled to accept. I think the solder's flowing into them relatively well. A bit worried about how that might go. If you saw one of the earlier videos, you remember how hard it was to get the bloody things in there to start with. So now we're on a bit of a roll. Yeah, good runs. Just come to an end. 96 more to go. Did I mention how much fun this is? Especially when your flux pen's absolutely buggered. Flux pen's only buggered because I'm doing this to it. If I wasn't abusing it like this, it'd be alright. Need some of that sort of squeeze on flux in a tube. Because from abusing the flux pen like that, I've now got bits of hairy flux pen all over the place. I'll bridge that one. On the home stretch. Less than 64 to go. Less than 40 to go. $30 to go, because I've already soldered 2 in this row. God, I'm good at bridging stuff tonight. This tip's just big enough that getting it in between 2 pins usually means it's touching both of them, which is why it's prone to making solder bridges. I do have a finer tip, but the finer tip I reckon would be a little bit too fine for this. The finer tip's more geared towards hand soldering surface mount stuff. It's a tiny little sort of needle nose tip. Anyway, that's that board soldered. Okay, so our back plane's done. Now we've got, we don't have anything to solder on the floppy controller card. That's all taken care of. On the processor card, we've got these switches. So we might just do those. Hopefully they will stay put while I solder them. Come on. Just quickly check that they're nicely down on the board, and they are, because it's easier to put pressure on them and correct when there's just one pin soldered than when it's all soldered in place. Right, so there's our switches. Switches are in. We've got a diode to go in. One baby diode. Now, can I tell? Yes, I can. If I can bend his legs in at least roughly the right spot. And he goes in there like that. And see if we can't get a bit of the good juice in there. And he's done. Beautiful. And now we've got an IDE connector that goes that way on the board. I'm going to employ the same old masking tape trick here. This is the only reason I bought this masking tape. Just for sticking things like this to the board. You can see, you maybe can't on the camera, but this board is kind of filthy with flux. Needs a good clean, which it will get once all the soldering is done. Alright, so start by soldering one at each end. And we'll take the tape off. Make sure our connector is, oops, put down, you can see it. It's not all the way down, but it can be. A bit of a push. Come on. Maybe it is all the way down. Yeah, I think it is. Ah, crap, that was hot. Did I mention it's not good to push on the same pin you're soldering? Because it might be hot. Well, the news is, it is hot. Because I just did it. It's bloody hot. Okay, that's that connector done. And I think that's probably about all I can do for tonight. The diode, the switches, the connectors in, sockets I'm still waiting on, the programming jig for the flash memory is still on the way. That could be a few weeks away yet actually. Crystals are still on the way. I've got the 4 meg crystal, pretty sure I've got that. But the 1.8432 for the serial UART, that's still on the way. Yeah, and these 5 sockets. 5 sockets there I'm waiting on. Waiting on that connector. A bunch of sockets for these ICs. I can't remember what goes there. I can't remember if that's a... Let's have a look. Let's have a look. We'll go to... Where's the Disco V3 is the card I'm using for there. Ah, so theirs is unpopulated, so what is it? It's J... Is it so? JP3. Does it say what JP3 is without having to... I don't really feel like busting open the schematics. JP2, JP3. Ah, for selecting floppy controller interrupt output pin. Right, so if I want to use interrupts, I really should populate that. So it looks like there's probably a few jumpers we could populate on this board, just looking at it. So what do we got? We've got... Well, we might as well do those. May as well do those. So we've got 2 pin, and that's my new, where's my half used strip that I had just before. It's probably right in front of me. I'll put my resistors away. Don't need them anymore. What have I done with my strip of... Surely I haven't buried it already. For serious? No. Oh, you just had them. Oh, no. That's just the other end of that. What have I done? Even under the edge of the... Oh, no. Seriously. There's a 2-banger anyway that was left over from the previous. So that goes in there. With a little bit of the tape to hold it in place. What happened to the rest of my... I hate it when it happens. Oh, stuck to the bottom of the board. Good on me. Good on me. Okay. Good. It's a bit high up, it's like in the next postcode. Right, that's that one done. Yeah, what other jumpers have we got on this here? Oh god, there's heaps of them. By the look of it. We've got a couple of jumpers. Which way do they go? They appear to go that way. Not that it matters, they're just pins, but it'd just be nice to have them go in a way that's consistent with. So oddly enough, there. Yeah, no, that's right. A little bit more of that. I might be able to reuse the bit of tape that we just used. Crooked. Just slip that in and see what it looks like. Probably. Where were they? They were down. Okay, I'll bite. Where were they? Oh, there they are. A little bit more on that one. It all drew down through the hole. See if it's straight or not. Pretty good. It's not the best print circuit board holding jig, but it's the one I've got. So while it's not the best, it's the best one I've got. Right, and then we've got jumpers up to the wazoo. That's one pin short for there. There's 3 banging down the bottom. This board's got jumpers all over it. It's a jumper fest. Sorry, that was a bit loud. There's a whole bloody set of jumpers up in here. Take one off the end. There's one of, oh, actually I'll use these because these are a slightly different profile, these ones. Use these for here. Another few packs of these header strips coming. I'm not sure I really want to use those actually. Don't have any jumpers kicking around. Just not convinced that the jumper's going to fit particularly well onto those. Have anything with jumpers on it? A jumper, my kingdom for a jumper. There's usually a jumper kicking around somewhere. Except when you want one. No. I might wait on that. I've got some others coming that are going to be the right size. So what have we got? One, two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can do that one. And we can do that one. Just quickly give those lose all the depth perception in this thing. I'll just give those a quick one-ended tack. See how they're sitting. And they're sitting all right. Yep. We can smoulder those in. Come on, little camera. It's deciding it doesn't want to focus good on it. Thought I'd start at the other end, but I went one too far. Right, so let's do that. Again, of course, now the hole's got solder in it, which is not going to help. I'll have to suck solder out of that one. It's probably means putting more solder on it. Yeah, well, that's worked. Can you see through it? Oh, I can see through it, so that's a good sign. See if I can tack this without burning myself. And I can. Wish you could see it. How did that come in? Aye! Hot! Like Electro Boom, but with a soldering iron, eh? Right, so that's me out of pin headers for now. But that's okay. I do have more on the way. And really I can't do much more on this board until the other bits and pieces arrive, so I suppose I could put some resistors in. Oh, look at that, 470 ohm resistors, the very ones I just put away. I might as well put them in. No harm in putting those in while we're here. So we've got the other. Actually, we might as well put all the resistors in. There's these. I just noticed there's a 10k resistor up the other end. So we might as well do them all. I don't know why I didn't do these at the start, actually. Normally I do these little components first. I normally start with the smallest, flattest components and work up to the biggest ones. So I don't know why I didn't do these, to be honest. And some 10Ks. 10K in the front. 10K 10k, 10k, 10k. Yep, 10k. Any other resistors to go on there that are sticking out? Ow! That hurt. Yes, there are some resistors here, but are they needed? 10, 10, 10. Yes, they are. So some more of those 10s that I just put away. Nearly out of these. I've got plenty more 10s, but they're just not nice new ones like this, except for the little baby ones. Right, tolerance band facing me. And that one's 10k as well. $10k, 10k, and that one's 10k. And the one in the middle is just a wire link. It just so happens that I have a tray of bits of wire, specifically for things like this. See how close to the mark I can get it. Probably a mile off. Yep, it was indeed a mile off. We can do that. What else has to go on there? Nothing jumpers that I don't have. Chips that go in sockets that I don't have. It's probably all the passives. We can get those smoulded in. On we go. All you can see is my arm. It's well done. We're done. Trim some excess leads. And this is going to be about all I can do on these tonight, until I get more bits. So we've got our wire link, our 3 resistors, 2 there, a resistor over there, all our bypass caps are in. Yeah, it's about where we're at for now. Put our tray of resistors away. I'll find where I got them from. Job done. So that's that for tonight. I think now would be an opportune moment to call it a night. If you've been watching, thank you. Next time you drop by, feel free to have a chat and tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I could do better, because I'd love to learn some new stuff, or ask me questions if you're wanting to better understand what it is I'm doing. More than happy to answer them. And yep, for now we will call it good night. So, a good night.